morning, everybody. Welcome to Johnny Melwater's Happy Place. I'm your host, Johnny Melwater. I'm very happy to see you. This will all work someday. Let's do it again. Huh? What? Maybe this time. Huh? Almost. What's going on back there? There we go. Now we're in the show. Glad to see everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm feeling well, healthy, happy, rich, and pretty, although I am noticing that the chat is not yet going. And I would like to make sure the chat works. There we go. There's the chat. Everything's fine. We're rolling and ready to start. Let's head on down to the chat chalet. A couple of updates. Wow, 6 frames a second. That's very odd. We'll have to work on that. Maybe it's because this thing's coming in. You may have noticed I got a new frame for the chat. I thought it looked a little bit classier, a little bit more on brand. Thought it'd be fun to try. So, here we are. Only one person. Whoop, John's here. Thanks for coming, John. Thanks for coming. This is John Champion all the way from beautiful Raleigh. Good morning. Thanks for sticking your head in. Hope you're doing well. How's your week been? You all right? 11 frames a second. What is going on with that? Well, I've had enough of this then. Let's spin the wheel, see if I can't get some things going. Sorry, John, a little bit out of sorts this morning, but I got lots of good stuff to read, so let's start there. Oh, anything can happen when you spin the wheel. I love this part. Oh, all right. Looks like it's time to do some Shakespeare. 18 frames per second. I do not understand why I'm losing so much. Well, might as well go through and see how it goes, right? So let's start. We're making our way through the sonnets. This is sonnet number 13. This is sonnet number 13 by William Shakespeare. Oh, that you were yourself, but love, you are no longer yours, then you yourself here live. Against this coming end you should prepare, and your sweet semblance to some other give. So should that beauty which you hold in lease find no determination. Then you were yourself again after yourself's decease, when your sweet issue, your sweet form should bear. Who lets so fair a house fall to decay, which husbandry in honor might uphold against the stormy gusts of winter's day, and barren rage of death's eternal cold? None but unthrifts. Dear my love, you know you had a father. Let your son say so. Glad to hear you're doing well, John. Let's keep moving. This is fun. All right, let's head into the new prose room. This is it. This is the new prose library. Hey, Shayna's here earlier than normal, and thank goodness for that. Glad to see you, Shayna. Hope you're doing well. We were just making our way through the prose. I believe I was about to read you guys. Whoop, we got a little bit of a slow load here. Sorry about that. I'm going to read you something on linguistics because I find that interesting. I have a new a new hand to mouth. There we go. This is a new essay on linguistics that I'm interested in. This is Hand to Mouth by Kenzie Cooperrider. That's spelled Kensy Some say language evolved by firelight, with our ancestors sharing stories deep into the night. Others suggest it began as baby talk, or as imitations of animal calls, or as gasps of surprise. Charles Darwin proposed that language started with snippets of song. Noah Chomsky thought it was just an accident, the result of a freak genetic mutation. Proposals about the origins of language abound, and it's no wonder language is a marvel, our most distinctive capacity. A few slight movements of the tongue, teeth, and lips, and I can give you a new idea, whisk you somewhere else, or give you goosebumps. Any thought a human being can think, it would seem, can be shared on a puff of air. Explaining how this all started has been called the hardest problem in science, and it's one that few can resist. Linguists, neuroscientists, philosophers, and primatologists, not to mention novelists and historians, have all taken cracks at it. Over this long and colorful history, one idea has proven particularly resilient: the notion that language began as gesture. What we now do with the tongue, teeth, and lips, the proposal goes, we originally did with arms, hands, and fingers. For hundreds and thousands of years, maybe longer, our prehistoric forebears commanded a gestural proto-language. This idea is evident in some of the earliest writings about language evolution and is now as popular as ever. Yet, even as the popularity of the gesture-first theory has surged, its major weakness, a flaw some consider fatal, has become all the more glaring. Early proponents of gesture-first ideas appealed to the intuition that bodily communication is primitive. In his essay on the origin of human knowledge in 1746, Etienne Benoit de Condillac imagined a boy and a girl, alone after a deluge, struggling to invent language anew. He described how the boy, wanting to obtain some out-of-reach object, moved his head, his arms, and all parts of his body as if trying to acquire it, and the girl got the message. A scene very much like this can readily be seen today, of course. A baby in a high chair wriggling in the direction of a toy just beyond her grasp. Part of the primitive aura of gesture for Condillac and other early thinkers stemmed from the observation that gesture precedes speech in infancy. Before children can talk, they point, nod, wave, and beg. Perhaps, goes the logic, the development of language in our species followed this same sequence. Anthropologists of the 19th century widely championed gesture-first theories, citing other intuitive arguments. Garrick Mallory, who saw gesture as the vestige of prehistoric epoch, noted that it is much easier to create new interpretable signals with one's hands than with one's voice. Imagine troglodyte man, he wrote in 1882, with the voice he could imitate distinctively but the few sounds of nature, while with gesture he could exhibit actions, motions, positions, forms, dimensions, directions, and distances with their derivatives and analogs. In more modern terms, it is easier to create transparent signals with gesture, signals that have a clear relationship to what they mean. This observation has since been borne out in lab experiments, and it remains one of the most compelling arguments for a gestural proto-language. Wonder if that's true. What do you think came first, the movements or the words? Certainly seems like it'd be movements to me, but what do I know? All right, well, let's go back to the chat. Looks like we got some things to talk about. All right. Let's go on back. Shayna says, hello, I'm here earlier than normal, so glad to see you, Shayna. Thank you for coming. Oh, where'd it go? Come on. Give me the business for some reason. And Shayna also says, hey, I'm jumping right into Ask Me Anything, which is a 24-hour policy here on the program. What was your favorite subject in elementary, middle, high school? I bet I can guess, but I'm curious to hear your answer. Let's see. I was always very good at math. I always really enjoyed language arts, but my favorite classes were always drama. I love drama, and I love chorus. Those were the ones that felt most right to me in junior high and middle school. Yep, drama, I think so. Drama, theater, and chorus. I enjoy those things. What were your favorite subjects? How about you, John Champion? I'm just curious. Yeah, I don't know, I felt at home in those places. All right, well, let's go back. We'll spin the wheel some more. There we go. Oh, all right, looks like it's time for a Zen Koan. See if I can't find one for you. We're making our way to the Zen Koans now. As most of you know, Zen Koan is a teaching tool that is used in the study of Japanese Buddhism. We'll bring the chat back in. And here we go. This is Zen Koan number 21, The Sound of One Hand. The master of Kennen Temple was Mukurai, Silent Thunder. He had a little protege named Toyo, who was only 12 years old. Toyo saw the older disciples visit the master's room each morning and evening to receive instruction in Sanzen, or personal guidance, in which they were given koans to stop mind wandering. Toyo wished to do Sanzen also. "Wait a while," said Mukurai. "You are too young." But the child insisted, so the teacher finally consented. In the evening, little Toyo went at the proper time to the threshold of Mukurai's Sanzen room. He struck the gong to announce his presence, bowed respectfully 3 times outside the door, and went to sit before the master in respectful silence. "You can hear the sound of 2 hands when they clap together," said Mukurai. "Now show me the sound of 1 hand." Toyo bowed and went to his room to consider this problem. From his window, he could hear the music of the geishas. "Ah, I have it!" he proclaimed. The next evening, when his teacher asked him to illustrate the sound of 1 hand, Toyo began to play the music of the geishas. No, said Mukurai. "That will never do. That is not the sound of 1 hand. You've got nothing at all." Thinking that such music might interrupt, Toyo moved his abode to a quiet place. He meditated again. What can the sound of 1 hand be? He happened to hear some water dripping. "I have it," imagined Toyo. When he next appeared before his teacher, Toyo imitated dripping water. "What is that?" Mukurai said. "That is the sound of dripping water, but not the sound of 1 hand. Try again." In vain Toyo meditated to hear the sound of 1 hand. He heard the sighing of the wind, but the sound was rejected. He heard the cry of an owl. This was also refused. The sound of 1 hand was not the locust. For more than 10 times, Toyo visited Mukurai with different sounds. All were wrong. For almost a year, he pondered what the sound of 1 hand might be. At last, little Toyo entered true meditation and transcended all sounds. "I could collect no more," he explained later, "so I reached the soundless sound." Toyo had realized the sound of 1 hand. Nice. All right. Nothing new in the chat. Let's spin the wheel. All right, Joe, spell it. Let's go to the comedy club. Oh, I have a special request joke. This one was written in. Just got to wait for it to load. See if I can remember. Still not loading. I'll do my best to do it from memory. Here we go. There it is. A turtle is crossing the road when he's mugged by 2 snails. The cops show up and they ask him what happened. The shaken turtle, he replies, "I don't know. It all happened so fast." There you go. There's a joke. That's fun. Ah, nice. We got some more in the chat. Let's go back. Oh, Shayna said, "I figured you loved drama class," and that's absolutely correct. But I also would have guessed. Why isn't it showing up on the screen? That's weird. I also would have guessed that literature was one of your favorite classes. Well, believe it or not, I had a really hard time in literature, except when I'm reading out loud. I have a hard time reading any of this stuff unless I'm reading it out loud. I've got some kind of learning disability. I've got dyslexia for sure, probably another one. But my concentration falters too much. I can't get like 3 sentences down unless I'm reading out loud, which is difficult and also kind of the point of this stream in one regard, to sort of practice and see if it gets a little bit easier. Oh, here we go. I do love reading literature, but I have a really hard time concentrating on it. Now, Shayna said that math was her favorite subject, but now she's so bad at math, I have a hard time believing that. You strike me as somebody who'd be good at math. What's your favorite subject now? I know you're into music. I know you're into art. I'm curious what you most enjoy spending your time doing. While we think about that, let's spin the wheel some more. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. anything can happen when you spin the wheel. Whoop, a cappella. All right, let's sing a song. You know what? Better yet, I've been trying to sing less on the program because I don't do it very well, and I feel like I'm practicing bad habits. So I will read. Let's go to the private library. I'm going to read you some lyrics from my favorite song. Here we go. All right. Here we go, folks. This is Summer Highland Falls by the great Billy Joel. They say that these are not the best of times, but they're the only times I've ever known. And I believe there is a time for meditation in cathedrals of our own. Now, I've seen that sad surrender in my lover's eyes, and I can only stand apart and sympathize, for we are always what our situations hand us. It's either sadness or euphoria. So we'll argue and we'll compromise and realize that nothing's ever changed. For all our mutual experience, our separate conclusions are the same. Now, we are forced to recognize our inhumanity. A reason coexists with our insanity. Though we choose between reality and madness, it's either sadness or euphoria. How thoughtlessly we dissipate our energies. Perhaps we'll help fulfill each other's fantasies. And as we stand upon the ledges of our lives with our respective similarities, it's either sadness or euphoria. That's my favorite song. Nice. Well, let's spin the wheel. Oh, monologue. All right, let's go to the theater. Dark one, but it's what's next, so buckle up. This is by George Carlin, and it is called... Where'd it go? There it is. George Carlin, and it's called Extreme Human Behavior. This is Extreme Human Behavior by George Carlin. Buckle up. Humans do some really interesting things. Like, besides killing ourselves, we also kill each other. Murder. And we're the only ones who do that, by the way. We're the only species on Earth that deliberately kills members of our own species for personal gain. Or pleasure. Sometimes it's just fun. We're also the only species that deliberately kills members of another species for personal gain. Or pleasure. That's what hunters do. They kill for pleasure. That's us. Human beings. Interesting folks. Murderers. Here's an interesting form of murder we've come up with. Assassination. You know what's interesting about assassination? Well, not only does it change those popularity polls in a big fucking hurry, but it is also interesting to notice who it is we assassinate. Have you ever noticed who it is? Stop to think who it is we kill? It's always people who've told us to live together in harmony and peace. Try to love one another. Jesus, Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lennon. They all said try to live together in peace. Boom! Right in the fucking head. Apparently, we're not ready for that. Yeah, that's difficult behavior for us. We're too busy sitting around trying to think up ways to kill each other. Here's one we came up with. It's efficient, too. Genocide. You know, killing large numbers of people simply because they don't look like you, they don't talk like you, and they don't have the same kind of hats you do. You ever notice that? At any time you see two groups of people who really hate each other, chances are good they're wearing different kinds of hats. Keep an eye on that. It might be important. But anytime there's genocide, there's always mass graves, right? Every time we kill some dictator and go marching through his country, we always find mass graves. Thousands and thousands of dead bodies of people the dictator killed. And everyone over here gets horrified. Oh, mass graves, oh, well, shit. What's the guy supposed to do with a couple thousand people he just killed? Dig separate holes? Fuck that shit. It's labor intensive. Get real. The whole idea of killing a large number of people at one time in one place is convenience, efficiency. Throw them in a fucking hole. Look at it this way. At least the dictator had the decency to throw a little dirt on him. Give the guy some credit. The dictator's a busy man. He's got a lot on his mind, like trying to figure out who's planning to kill him so he can pick them up, put them in prison, and torture them. There's another one of our interesting, heartwarming behaviors we've come up with everywhere. Torture. Huh? Torturing each other. You want to hear a really cool torture that the Romans invented? They also used it as a form of capital punishment. It's really creative. They would take the guy in question, stuff him in a burlap sack, seal the sack up real tight, and throw it in the river. But, and here's the creative part, inside the sack with the guy, they would put a dog, a monkey, and a snake. Okay? A dog, a monkey, and a snake. That's fucking creative. Imagine being inside a burlap sack, underwater, in the dark, sitting next to a drowning monkey. Think he'd be moving around a little bit? The dog would definitely be going ape shit, we know that. And the snake, well, he'd probably be getting curious about what all the activity was inside the sack. He might do anything, but whatever he did, it would probably involve venom and his teeth. You know what you'd be doing? You'd be praying to God. You'd be praying to God that the snake bit the monkey and the dog ate the snake. Praying. Yeah. Then it would just be you and the dog. Man and his best friend drowning together. Maybe before you die, you could teach him a few tricks. Roll over and play dead wouldn't be too difficult, would it? Just a thought, just a playful thought. By the way, I assume you're noticing that all these activities I'm mentioning, murder, genocide, all these are things that human beings do, not animals, those creatures we feel superior to. This is us. Here's another one of our spiritually uplifting activities. We don't do this as much as we used to, but it used to be really big. Human sacrifice. I miss that. The Aztecs loved human sacrifice, and they were good at it. Well, they got a lot of practice. For instance, right around the year 1500, the Aztecs sacrificed 80,000 people in one ceremony. Okay? 80,000 people in one ceremony. You know what the occasion was? They were opening a new temple. Huh? Nothing like religion for a little entertainment, huh? Especially that old-time religion. You know how the Aztecs went about their sacrificing? Here's how they did it. They would do it right out in public, right in front of everybody. Big town, beautiful city square, 20, 30,000 people looking on. They would take the guy, lay him on an altar, cut his chest open, pull his heart out, and hold it up in the air while it was still beating. Got that? Cut his heart out and hold it up in the air while it was still beating. You know what you call that? You call that theater. That is fucking theater. And although it's a little too crude to be considered the first bypass surgery, it could easily be seen as an early form of organ donor program. The Aztecs, human beings just like us. Not too long ago, 500 years, Columbus had already landed. This is just south of here, Mexico. And by the way, those hearts did not go to waste, because right after the ceremonies, the royal family, naturally, would enjoy another one of our amusing activities, cannibalism. Imagine that, chowing down on another human being. You've got to be all out of beef jerky, man. You got to be really fucking hungry. But it happens, doesn't it? Still happens to this day. Bunch of people stranded in the wilderness, running a Pop-Tart. You got to eat something. Might as well be Steve. And how do you decide who to eat first? How do you decide who's first in the barbecue rack? Do you pick on the little guy because he's skinny and he can't fight back? Or do y'all gang up on the bodybuilder because he's got a lot of steaks and chops on him? These are things human beings have to consider. One more of these charming diversions of ours. Necrophilia. Now there's a hobby for you. Fucking a corpse. Takes a special kind of guy, don't you think? But it happens. It happens more than you might think. It happens among humans. Animals don't do that. Animals don't fuck their dead. A rat will do a lot of gross things, but he will not fuck a dead rat. It wouldn't even occur to him. Only a human being would think to fuck somebody who just died. We got to be the most interesting critters on the planet, and then we wonder why a UFO doesn't just land and say hello. You know the best thing about necrophilia? You don't have to bring flowers. They're usually already there. Isn't that nice? It's nice. It's convenient. Human beings will do anything. Anything. I am convinced. That's why all those beheadings starting in Iraq didn't bother me. I took it right in stride. A lot of people were horrified. Oh, beheadings. Whoa! What are you, fucking surprised? It's just one more form of extreme human behavior. Besides, who cares about some mercenary civilian contractor from Oklahoma who gets his head cut off? Fuck him. Fuck him. Hey, Jack, you don't want to get your head cut off? Stay the fuck in Oklahoma. Stay the fuck in Oklahoma. They ain't cutting off heads in Oklahoma, as far as I know. But I do know this. You strap on a gun and go strutting around some other man's country, you better be ready for some action, Jack. You better be ready for some action. People are touchy about that sort of thing. And let me ask you this while I have you good, clean Americans here. This is a moral question, not rhetorical. I'm looking for the answer. What is the moral difference between cutting off one guy's head, or 2, or 3, or 5, or 10, and dropping a big bomb on a hospital and killing a whole bunch of sick kids? Has anybody in authority given you an explanation of the difference? I have not gotten an email on this. No one will talk to me. Not a fucking instant message, nothing. Now, in case you're wondering why I have a certain interest or fascination, let's call it, with torture and beheadings and all of these things I've mentioned, is because each of these things reminds me, in life, every time one of them occurs, it reminds me over and over again what beasts human beings really are, you know? When you get right down to it, human beings are nothing more than ordinary jungle beasts. Savages, no different from the Cro-Magnon people who lived 25,000 years ago in the Pleistocene forests eating grubs off of rotten logs. No difference. Our DNA hasn't changed substantially in 100,000 years. We're still operating out of the lower brain, the reptilian brain, fight or flight, kill or be killed now. We like to think we've evolved and advanced because we can build a computer, fly an airplane, travel underwater. We can write a sonnet, paint a painting, compose an opera. But you know something? We're barely out of the jungle on this planet. Barely out of the fucking jungle. What we are is semi-civilized beasts with baseball caps and automatic weapons. And this civilization of ours that we're so proud of, this civilization with its so-called civilized behavior, you ever stop and realize how fragile all this is? How fragile the whole structure, how easily it could break right down. Just break right down. Wouldn't take much. Probably happen in less than 2 years. Wouldn't take much to throw us right back into barbaric times. All you'd have to do would be eliminate electricity. That's all, but completely eliminate electricity. So, no electricity, no lights. You're back to candles and lanterns, campfires and bonfires. Batteries couldn't be recharged. Generators couldn't be refueled because fuel is pumped electrically. So is water, by the way. So no lights, no fuel, no water, no computers. And computers run everything. And among the many things computers run that operate on electricity are all of the security systems and all of our jails and prisons and nut houses. So suddenly, without electricity all across America, the gates and cell doors of penitentiaries and mental institutions would fly open, and out would come all of our old friends, the ones who've been away at camp. Serial killers, mass murderers, felony rapists, armed robbers, carjackers, home invaders, kidnappers, burglars, sadists, pedophiles, sexual predators, pimps, pushers, pornographers, speed freaks, crackheads, sick junkies, all the ethnic street gangs, blacks, Spanish and Asian gangs, Japanese Yakuza, Russian mafia, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, Sicilian hitmen, Italian mobsters, Jamaican and Colombian drug gangs. And those are just the ones we caught. Let's not forget their counterparts still on the outside right now, waiting to hook up with their prison buddies so they can start a new organization, the American Federation of Sociopaths. Just what the country needs, another special interest group. 8 to 10 million of them there would be, counting all the parolees and probationers and the ones who've never been caught. 8 to 10 million bitter, angry, violent, sexually hyperactive alpha males with nothing to do. No hobbies. No medication, no scruples. Just a bunch of bad dudes looking for a good time. Maybe dropping by your house. Hi. I hope we're not intruding. Got any beer? Oh, good. Well, I got about 1,400 really thirsty guys here. How about women? Got any women? Oh, just your wife, huh? Well, I think we can make that work. Now, boys, there's a lady here, so I want you to mind your manners and wait your turn. Police wouldn't help you. They'd be gone at the first sign of trouble. They'd be home protecting their own families. So would the Army and the National Guard. You'd be alone. You'd be on your own. You'd be SOL and JWF. Shit out of luck and jolly well fucked. After a couple of years of living like that, beheadings would be the least of your problems. People will be lining up to be beheaded. There you go. Dark, but I think it's true. We are barely out of the jungle in this country. Hey, spring's here. Yay. Let's go back to the chat. We got a lot to catch up on. Uh-oh. What is... Something's gone horribly wrong with my chat. Somebody copied and pasted all of my hashtags somehow. I don't know why they would do that. But Spring says hi. Hi, Spring. Oh, here we go. Mark says hello. There we go. Art is her favorite subject now. Shayna says, I'm so excited about teaching my very first paint your date Picasso style. Huh? It's hosted by DJ Shenanigans. Who doesn't love her? It's going to be so much fun, and anyone can do it, regardless of artistic skill level. So if you live in Charlotte, you should check that out. Mark says hello. Nice to see you, sir. Shayna says, I'd love for you and Debbie to be a part of it on Valentine's Day. I'll give you guys the friends and family discount. I appreciate the thought very much. I'll run it by her, but I think we have the kids that night, but we'll find out. Now, Shayna also wants to know, do you already have plans for Valentine's Day, or is it a surprise? We don't really do Valentine's Day at my house. It's like, you know, the kids get little cards and stuff, but it's, yeah, we kind of pick and choose our holidays, and that's not one that we do much with. Kim says, good morning. Good morning, Kim. Shayna says, I heart George Carlin. Yeah, I do too. He's fantastic. Now, Shayna says, I also noticed all your hashtags. Wow. And then she copied them all and put them into the chat for our convenience. Thank you. Yeah, I had ChatGPT write me 100 hashtags for for TikTok, and there they are. And Spring says, hello. Hello, Spring. I'm very happy to see you. I hope you're doing well. Let's see. Why is the featured chat not showing up? Just a crazy comment. All right. Well, we'll keep working on it. Well, I think we're all caught up. Mark said nothing's wrong. It's a crazy comment. I know how that goes. And I'll come right back to check in on everybody. Hope you're doing well. Let's spin the wheel. Anything can happen when you spin the wheel. All right. Okay. Wisdom. Let us go and share some wisdom. Here's some good stuff for you right here. I think you'll enjoy this. Try to learn to breathe deeply. Really, to taste food when you eat. And when you sleep, really to sleep. Try as much as possible to be wholly alive with all your might. And when you laugh, laugh like hell. And when you get angry, get good and angry. Try to be alive. You will be dead soon enough. That's wisdom from Ernest Hemingway. Can't do much better than that. All right, spin the wheel. Poem. All right, let's go down to the Poetry Corner. Let's see, I think today... I think we're doing the Lotus Eaters today. Yeah, Alfred Lloyd Tennyson. Can't go wrong with that. Let me get this set here. There we go. Microphone test. Microphone test, and we're set to go. All right. This is the Lotus Eaters. This is the Lotus Eaters by Alfred Lord Tennyson.
"Courage," he said, and pointed toward the land. "The mounting wave will roll us shoreward soon." In the afternoon they came unto a land, in which it seemed always afternoon. All round the coast the languid air did swoon, breathing like one who hath a weary dream. Full-faced above the valley stood the moon, and like a downward smoke the slender stream along the cliff to fall and pause and fall did seem. A land of streams, some like a downward smoke, slow-dropping veils of thinnest lawn did go, and some through wavering lights and shadows broke, rolling a slumberous sheet of foam below. They saw the gleaming river seaward flow from the inner land far off. 3 mountain tops, 3 silent pinnacles of aged snow, stood sunset flushed, and, dewed with showery drops, upclomb the shadowy clime above the woven copse. The charmed sunset lingered low adown in the red west. Through mountain clefts the dale was seen far inland, and the yellow down bordered with palm, and many a winding vale and meadow, set with slender galingale, a land where all things always seemed the same. And round the keel, and round about the keel, with faces pale, dark faces pale, against that rosy flame, the mild-eyed melancholy lotus-eaters came. Branches they bore of that enchanted stem, laden with flower and fruit, whereof they gave to each, but who did so receive of them and taste, to him the gushing of the wave far, far away did seem to mourn and rave on alien shores. And if his fellow spake, his voice was thin as voices from the grave. And deep asleep he seemed, yet all awake, and music in his ears did beating heart make. They sat them down upon the yellow sand, between the sun and moon upon the shore. And sweet it was to dream of fatherland, of child, and wife, and slave. But evermore most weary seemed the sea, weary the oar, weary the wandering fields of barren foam. Then someone said, "We will return no more." And all at once they sang, "Our island home is far beyond the wave. We will no longer roam." This is the first choric song. There is sweet music here that softer falls than petals from blown, roses on the grass, or night dews, or still waters between walls of shadowy granite, in a gleaming pass, music that gentlier on the spirit lies than tired eyelids upon tired eyes, music that brings sweet sleep down from the blissful skies. Here are cool mosses deep, and through the moss the ivies creep, and in the stream the long-leaved flowers weep, and from the craggy ledge the poppy hangs in sleep. Number 2. Why are we weighed upon with heaviness, and utterly consumed with sharp distress, while all things else have rest from weariness? All things have rest. Why should we toil alone? We only toil who are the first of things, and make perpetual moan, still from one sorrow to another thrown. Nor ever fold our wings, and cease from wanderings, nor steep our brows in slumber's holy balm, nor hearken what the inner spirit sings. There is no joy but calm. Why should we only toil the roof and crown of things? Lo, in the middle of the wood the folded leaf is wooed from out the bud, with winds upon the branch, and there grows green and broad, and takes no care, sun-steeped at noon, and in the moon nightly dew-fed, and turning yellow falls, and floats adown the air. Oh, sweetened with the summer light, the full-juiced apple, waxing over mellow, drops in a silent autumn night. All is allotted length of days, the flower ripens in its place, ripens and fades, and falls, and hath no toil, fast rooted in the fruitful soil. Hateful is the dark blue sky, vaulted o'er the dark blue sea. Death is the end of life. Ah, why should life all labor be? Let us alone. Time driveth onward fast, and in a little while our lips are dumb. Let us alone. What is it that will last? All things are taken from us, and become portions and parcels of the dreadful past. Let us alone. What pleasure can we have to war with evil? Is there any peace in ever climbing up the climbing wave? All things have rest, and ripen toward the grave in silence, ripen, fall, and cease. Give us long rest, or death, dark death, or dreamful ease. Number 5. How sweet it were, hearing the downward stream with half-shut eyes, ever to seem falling asleep in a half-dream, to dream and dream like yonder amber wave, which will not leave the myrrh bush on the height, to hear each other's whispered speech, eating the lotus day by day, to watch the crisping ripples on the beach, and tender curving lines of creamy spray, to lend our hearts and spirits wholly to the influence of mild-minded melancholy, to muse and brood and live again in memory with those old faces of our infancy, heaped over with a mound of grass, 2 handfuls of white dust, shut in an urn of brass. Number 6. Dear is the memory of our wedded lives, and dear the last embraces of our wives, and their warm tears. But all hath suffered change, for surely now our household hearths are cold, our sons inherit us, our looks are strange, and we should come like ghosts to trouble joy. Or else the island princes, ever bold, have eat our substance, and the minstrel sings before them of the 10-year war in Troy, and our great deeds as half-forgotten things. Is there confusion in the little isle? Let what is broken so remain. The gods are hard to reconcile. 'Tis hard to settle order there again. There is confusion worse than death, trouble on trouble, pain on pain, long labor unto aged breath, sore task to hearts worn out by many wars, and eyes grown dim with gazing on the pilot stars. Number 7. But, propped on the beds of amaranth and moly, how sweet, while warm air lulls us, blowing lowly, with half-dropped eyelids still, beneath a heaven dark and holy, to watch the long bright river drawing slowly his waters from the purple hill, to hear the dewy echoes calling from cave to cave through the thick-twined vine, to watch the emerald-colored water falling through many a woven antheus wreath divine, only to hear and see the far-off sparkling brine, only to hear were sweet, stretched out beneath the pine. Number 8. The lotus blooms below the barren peak, the lotus blows by every winding creek, all day the wind breathes low with mellower tone, through the alley, lone round and round the spicy downs, the yellow lotus dust is blown. We have had enough of action and of motion we, rolled to starboard, rolled to larboard, when the surge was seething free, where the wallowing monster spouted his foam fountains in the sea. Let us swear an oath, and keep it with an equal mind, in the hollow lotus land to live and lie reclined, on the hills like gods together, careless of mankind. For they lie beside their nectar, and the bolts are hurled far below them in the valleys. And the clouds are lightly curled round their golden houses, girdled with the gleaming world, where they smile in secret, looking over wasted lands, blight and famine, plague and earthquake, roaring deeps and fiery sands, clanging fights and flaming towns, and sinking ships and praying hands. But they smile. They find a music centered in the doleful song, steaming up a lamentation and an ancient tale of wrong, like a tale of little meaning through the words are strong, chanted from an ill-used race of men that cleave the soil, sow the seed, and reap the harvest with enduring toil, storing yearly little dews of wheat and wine and oil, till they perish and they suffer some. 'Tis whispered down in hell, suffer endless anguish, only in Elysian valleys dwell, resting weary limbs at last on beds of asphodel. Surely, surely slumber is more sweet than toil, the shore than labor in the deep mid-ocean, wind and wave and oar. Oh, rest ye, brother mariners, we will not wander more. That's a long one. Oh, we got all kinds of stuff in the chat. Let's go to the chat. Let's see. All right, we had a couple of things here. Oh, Shana was asking. My Wi-Fi froze for a moment. I don't know if you saw my previous message about Valentine's Day. I did. I saw the message. We don't really celebrate Valentine's Day in my house. We try to love each other every day like it's Valentine's Day. But if I could talk her into going, we'll go. Usually she's pretty tired on the nights that she's home. But I know it'll be a great time. I did tell everybody in Charlotte about it. Well, Mark had a couple other things here. Pole dance. When will we see that? He wants to know. I'll lose 70 pounds and I'll do it for you. Now, Mark also said, I really enjoyed your interview on Open Bar Comedy Podcast. I think it's my favorite thing I've heard you talk about so far. I like the storytelling version of Johnny. Well, thank you very much. That was released this week. The podcast is on Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to it. I've only seen the clips that are online. I can't listen to myself in an interview. I feel too stupid and awful. But if you say it sounds good, then I'll believe you. Thanks for saying so, Mark. Appreciate you listening. Now, Mark also wants to know, is it taboo for a comedian to do material about being on a cruise ship? I've never heard such a bit. It's not taboo, but on land, it does make other comedians roll their eyes. On ships, everybody, what are you talking about, Mark? You've never heard such a bit? I must be thinking of a different Mark. Sorry about that. Yeah, a lot of cruise ship comedians. We all have material about flying, and we all have material about being on the ship. But we tend to only do it on the ships where everybody knows what we're talking about. Shana says, your hashtags really do make me smile. Well, that makes me happy. Anything to make you smile, Shana. And Mark says, score 1 for ChatGPT. You know, my 3 nephews were bored last night and fighting over the PlayStation video game. I've been there. I asked ChatGPT to search the PlayStation Online store for a 2-player restaurant game, and sure enough, the kids were howling with laughter the rest of the night. What was the restaurant game? That's interesting to me. Penelope says, hi there. I'm so glad you're there. Hi, Penelope. Hope you're doing well. Haven't seen you in a couple weeks. I think I missed one of your messages last week, and I hope I don't miss any this week. Glad to see you, Penelope. Shana also says, please disregard my previous message. I was able to rewind and see your comments about Valentine's Day. I didn't know it was possible to rewind a live stream video, but you learn something every day. Hey, son, good morning. Dad says, good morning, son, and that's great news. How are you, Dad? I'm very happy to see you. Hope you're doing well. I see what went wrong. I hit the wrong button. Let's try this. Nope, just trying to get that to work. We'll see you. How you doing, Dad? You still in Tampa? Everybody doing well? Miss you. All right. We just did that. Why don't we spin the wheel? Oh, there it is. Yay, it's starting to come out. Good. Now, Shana says, please disregard my previous message. Overcooked 2 was the game. Good to know. Thank you very much. And Shana says, thank you for sharing the flyer. Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope it goes really, really well for you. Sounds like a great time. And I'm always a big fan of what you do. All right. Well, let us do pro. Well, I'll spin the wheel, see what happens. All right, Shakespeare. Well, let's go. I have some We already did a sonnet, and I know nobody wants that. Let us do Fear No More. This is Fear No More by William Shakespeare. Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done, home art gone, and taken thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. Fear no more the frown of the great, thou art past the tyrant's stroke. Care no more to clothe and eat, to thee the reed is as the oak. The scepter, learning, physic, must all follow this and come to dust. Fear no more the lightning flash, nor the all-dread thunderstone. Fear not slander, censure, rash. Thou hast finished joy and moan. All lovers young, all lovers must consign to thee, and come to dust. No exorciser harm thee, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Ghost unlaid forbear thee. Nothing ill come near thee. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave. Nice. Is Debbie Millwater a dance mom? No, she is not. And Kim says hi to Daddy. Pretty nice. Spin the wheel. All right, pros. Let's do some pros then. I think I got some David Sedaris for you. That was fast. All right. I believe I was reading Go Carolina by David Sedaris. Anyone who reaches... I don't want to sound like David Sedaris. Go Carolina by David Sedaris. Anyone who watches even the slightest amount of TV is familiar with the scene. An agent knocks on the door of some seemingly ordinary home or office. The door opens, and the person holding the knob is asked to identify himself. The agent then says, "I'm going to ask you to come with me." They're always remarkably calm, these agents. If asked, "Why do I need to go anywhere with you?" they'll straighten their shirt cuffs or idly brush stray hairs from the sleeves of their sport coats and say, "Oh, I think we both know why." The suspect then chooses between doing things the hard way and doing things the easy way, and the scene ends with either gunfire or the gentlemanly application of handcuffs. Occasionally it's a case of mistaken identity, but most often the suspect knows exactly why he's being taken. It seems like he's been expecting this to happen. The anticipation has ruled his life, and now, finally, the wait is over. You're sometimes led to believe that this person is actually relieved, but I've never bought it. Though it probably has its moments, the average day spent in hiding is bound to beat the average day spent in prison. When it comes time to decide who gets the bottom bunk, I think anyone would agree that there's a lot to be said for doing things the hard way. The agent came for me during a geography lesson. She entered the room and nodded at my fifth-grade teacher, who stood frowning at a map of Europe. What would needle me later was the realization that this had all been prearranged. My capture had been scheduled to go down at exactly 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon. The agent would be wearing a dung-colored blazer over a red knit turtleneck, her heels sensibly low, in case the suspect should attempt a quick getaway. "David," the teacher said, "this is Miss Sampson, and she'd like you to go with her now." No one else had been called, so why me? I ran down a list of recent crimes, looking for a conviction that might stick. Setting fire to a reportedly flame-proof Halloween costume, stealing a set of barbecue tongs from an unguarded patio, altering the word "hit" on a list of rules posted on the gymnasium door. Never did it occur to me that I might be innocent. "You might want to take your books with you," the teacher said, "and your jacket. You probably won't be back before the bell rings." Though she seemed old at the time, the agent was most likely fresh out of college. She walked beside me and asked what appeared to be an innocent and unrelated question. "So, which do you like better, State or Carolina?" She was referring to the athletic rivalry between the Triangle's two largest universities. Those who cared about such things tended to express their allegiance by wearing either Tar Heel powder blue or Wolfpack red, two colors that managed to look good on no one. The question of team preference was common in our part of North Carolina, and the answer supposedly spoke volumes about the kind of person you either were or hoped to become. I had no interest in football or otherwise. If a boy didn't care for barbecue chicken or potato chips, people would just, accept it as a matter of personal taste, saying, "Oh, well, I guess it takes all kinds." You could turn up your nose at the president or at Coke or even God, but there were names for boys who didn't like sports. When the subject came up, I found it best to ask which team my questioner preferred. Then I'd say, "Really? Me too." Asked by the agent which team I supported, I took my cue from her red turtleneck and told her that I was for state. Definitely state. State all the way. It was an answer I would regret for years to come. State, did you say? The agent asked. Yes, state. They're the greatest. I see. She led me through an unmarked door near the principal's office into a small, windowless room, furnished with 2 facing desks. It was the kind of room where you'd grill someone until they snapped, the kind frequently used, the kind frequently painted so as to cover the bloodstains. She gestured towards what was to become my regular seat, then continued her line of questioning. And what exactly are they, State and Carolina? Colleges? Universities? She opened a file on her desk, saying, yes, you're right. Your answers are correct, but you're saying them incorrectly. You're telling me that they're colleges and universities, when actually they're colleges and universities. You're giving me a th sound instead of a nice clear s. Can you hear the distinction between the th and the s sounds? I nodded. May I please have an actual answer? Uh-huh. Uh-huh's not a word. Okay. Okay, I said. Sure, I can hear it. You can hear what? The distinction? The contrast? Yeah, that. It was the first battle of my war against the letter S, and I was determined to dig my foxhole before I went down. According to Agent Sampson, a state-certified speech therapist, my S was sibilant, meaning that I lisped. This was not news to me. Our goal is to work together until eventually you can speak correctly, Agent Sampson said. She made a great show of enunciating her own sparkling S's, and the effect was profoundly irritating. I'm trying to help you, but the longer you play these little games, the longer this is going to take. The woman spoke with a heavy Western North Carolina accent, which I used to discredit her authority. Here was a person for whom the word pen had 2 syllables, payen. Her people undoubtedly drank from clay jugs and hollered for paw when the victuals were ready. So who was she to advise me on anything? Over the coming years, I would find a crack in each of the therapists sent to train what Miss Sampson now defined as my lazy tongue. That's the problem, she said. It's just plain lazy. My sisters, Amy and Gretchen, were, at the time, undergoing therapy for their lazy eyes, while my older sister, Liza, had been born with a lazy leg that had refused to grow at the same rate as his twin. She'd worn a corrective brace for the first 2 years of her life, and wherever she roamed, she left a trail of scratch marks in the soft pine floor. I liked the idea that a part of one's body could be thought of as lazy, not thoughtless or hostile, just unwilling to extend itself for the betterment of the team. My father often accused my mother of having a lazy mind, while she, in turn, accused him of having a lazy index finger, unable to dial the phone when he knew damn well he was going to be late. My therapy sessions were scheduled for every Thursday at 2:30, and with the exception of my mother, I discussed them with no one. The word therapy suggested a profound failure on my part. Mental patients had therapy. Normal people did not. I didn't see my sessions as the sort of thing that one would want to advertise, but as my teacher liked to say, I guess it takes all kinds. Whereas my goal was to keep it a secret, hers was to inform the entire class. If I got up from my seat at 2:25, she'd say, sit back down. Still got 5 more minutes before your speech therapy. If I remained seated until 2:27, she'd say, David, don't forget you have a speech therapy session at 2:30 on the days I was absent. I imagine she addressed the room saying, David's not here today, but if he were, he'd have a speech therapy session at 2:30. My sessions varied from week to week. Sometimes I'd spend the half hour parroting whatever Agent Sampson had to say. We'd occasionally pass the time examining charts on tongue position or reading childish S-laden texts recounting the adventures of seals or settlers named Samuel or Cessy. On the worst of days, she'd haul out a tape recorder and show me just how much progress I was failing to make. My speech therapist's name is Miss Chrissy Sampson. She'd hand me the microphone and lean back with her arms crossed. Go ahead, say it. I want you to hear what you sound like. She was in love with the sound of her own name and seemed to view my speech impediment as a personal assault. If I wanted to spend the rest of my life as David Thedareth, then that would be it. She, however, was going to be called Miss Chrissy Sampson. Had her name included no S's, she probably would have bypassed a career in therapy and devoted herself to yanking out healthy molars or performing unwanted clitorectomies on the schoolgirls of Africa. Such was her personality. "Oh, come on," my mother would say. "I'm sure that she's not that bad. Give her a break. The girl's just trying to do her job." I was a few minutes early one week and entered the office to find Agent Sampson doing her job on Garth Barclay, a slight, kittenish boy I'd met back in the 4th grade. "You may wait outside in the hallway until it is your turn," she told me. A week or two later, my session was interrupted by mincing Steve Bixler, who popped his head in the door and announced that his parents were taking him out of town for a long weekend, meaning that he would miss his regular Friday session. "Sorry about that," he said. I started keeping watch over the speech therapy door, taking note of who came and went. Had I seen one popular student leaving the office, I could have believed my mother and viewed my lisp as the sort of thing that might happen to anyone. Unfortunately, I saw no popular students. Chuck Coggins, Sam Shelton, Louis DeLuca. Obviously, there was some connection between a sibilant S and a complete lack of interest in the state versus Carolina issue. None of the therapy students were girls. They were all boys like me who kept movie star scrapbooks and made their own curtains. "You don't want to be doing that," the men in our families would say. "That's a girl thing. Baking scones and cupcakes for the school janitors, watching Guiding Light with our mothers, collecting rose petals for use in fragrant potpourri. Anything worth doing turned out to be a girl thing. In order to enjoy ourselves, we learned to be duplicitous. Our stacks of Cosmopolitan were topped with an unread issue of Boy's Life or Sports Illustrated, and our decoupage projects were concealed beneath the sporting equipment we never asked for but always received. When asked what we wanted to be when we grew up, we hid the truth and listed who we wanted to sleep with when we grew up. A policeman, or a fireman, or one of those guys who works with high-tension wires. Symptoms were feigned, and our mothers wrote notes excusing our absences on the day of intramural softball tournaments. Brian had a stomach virus, or Ted suffered from that 24-hour bug that seemed to be going around. "One of these days, I'm going to have to hang a sign on that door," Agent Sampson used to say. She was probably thinking along the lines of speech therapy lab, though a more appropriate marker would have been future homosexuals of America. We knocked ourselves out trying to fit in, but were ultimately betrayed by our tongues. At the beginning of the school year, while we were congratulating ourselves on successfully passing as normal, Agent Sampson was taking names as our assembled teachers raised their hands, saying, "I've got one in my homeroom, and there are 2 in my 4th period math class." Were they also able to spot the future drunks and depressives? Did they hope that by eliminating our lisps they might set us on a different path? Or were they trying to prepare us for future stage and choral careers? Miss Sampson instructed me, when forming an S, to position the tip of my tongue against the rear of my top teeth, right up against the gum line. The effect produced a sound not unlike that of a tire releasing air. It was awkward and strange sounding and elicited much more attention than the original lisp. I failed to see the hissy S as a solution to the problem and continued to talk normally, at least at home, where my lazy tongue fell upon equally lazy ears. At school, where every teacher was a potential spy, I tried to avoid an S sound whenever possible. Yes became correct, or a military affirmative. Please became with your kind permission, and questions were pleaded rather than asked. After a few weeks of what she called endless pestering and what I called repeated badgering, my mother bought me a pocket thesaurus, which provided me with S-free alternatives to just about everything. I consulted the book both at home and at the Daily Learning Academy other people called our school. Agent Sampson was not amused when I began referring to her as an articulation coach, but the majority of my teachers were delighted. "What a nice vocabulary," they said. "My goodness, such big words." Plurals presented a considerable problem, but I worked around them as best I could. Rivers, for example, became either a river or two, or many a river. Possessives were a similar headache, and it was easier to say nothing than to announce that the left hand and the right hand glove of Janet had fallen to the floor. After all the compliments I had received on my improved vocabulary, it seemed prudent to lie low and keep my mouth shut. I didn't want anyone thinking I was trying to be a pet of the teacher. as opposed to teacher's pet. That's clever. Pet of the teacher. When I first began my speech therapy, I wondered that Agent Sampson plan might work for everyone but me, that the other boys might strengthen their lazy tongues, turn their lives around, and leave me stranded. Luckily, my fears were never realized. Despite the woman's best efforts, no one seemed to make any significant improvement. The only difference was that they were a little quieter. Thanks to Agent Sampson's tape recorder, I, along with others, now had a clear sense of what I actually sounded like. There was the lisp, of course, but more troubling was my voice itself, with its excitable tone and high girlish pitch. I'd hear myself ordering lunch in the cafeteria, and the sound would turn my stomach. How could anyone stand to listen to me? Whereas those around me might grow up to be lawyers or movie stars, my only option was to take a vow of silence and become a monk. My former classmates would call the abbey, wondering how I was doing, and the priest would answer the phone. "You can't talk to him," he'd say. "Why, Brother David hasn't spoken to anyone in 35 years. "Oh, relax," my mother said. "Your voice will change eventually." "And what if it doesn't?" She shuddered. "Don't be so morbid." It turned out that Agent Sampson was something along the lines of a circuit court speech therapist. She spent 4 months at our school and then moved on to another. Our last meeting was held the day before school let out for Christmas. My classrooms were all decorated, the halls, everything but her office, which remained as bare as ever. I was expecting a regular half hour of Sassy the Seal and was delighted to find her packing up her tape recorder. "I thought that this afternoon we might let loose and have a party, you and I. How does that sound?" She reached into her desk drawer and withdrew a festive tin of cookies. "Here, have one. I made them myself from scratch, and boy, was it a mess. Do you ever make cookies?" I lied, saying that no, I never had. "Well, it's hard work," she said, "especially if you don't have a mixer." It was unlike Agent Sampson to speak so casually, and awkward to sit in the hot little room, pretending to have a normal conversation. "So," she said, "what are your plans for the holidays?" "Well, I usually remain here and, open a gift from my family." "Only one?" she asked. "Maybe 8 or 10. "Never 6 or 7? "Rarely." "And what do you do on December 31st, New Year's Eve?" "On the final day of the year, we take down the pine tree in our living room and eat marine life." "You're pretty good at avoiding those S's," she said. "I have to hand it to her. You're tougher than most." I thought she would continue to try to trip me up, but instead she talked about her own holiday plans. "It's pretty hard with my fiancé in Vietnam," she said. "Last year we went to see his folks in Roanoke, but this year I'll spend Christmas with my grandmother outside of Asheville. My parents will come, and we'll all do our best to have a good time. I'll eat some turkey and go to church, and then, the next day, a friend and I will drive down to Jacksonville to watch Florida play Tennessee in the Gator Bowl." I could believe it. I couldn't imagine anything worse than driving down to Florida to watch a football game. But I pretended to be impressed. "Wow, that ought to be eventful." "I was in Memphis last year when North Carolina State whooped Georgia 14-7 in the Liberty Bowl," she said. "And next year, I don't care who's playing, but I want to be sitting front row and center at the Tangerine Bowl. Have you ever been to Orlando? It's a super fun place. If my future husband can find a job in his field, we're hoping to move down there within a year or two. Me living in Florida. I bet that would make you happy, wouldn't it?" I didn't know how to respond. Who was this college ball fanatic with no mixer and a fiancé in Vietnam? And why had she taken so long to reveal herself? Here I'd thought of her as a cold-blooded agent when she was really nothing but a slightly dopey, inexperienced speech teacher. She wasn't a bad person, Miss Sampson, but her timing was off. She should have acted friendly at the beginning of the year instead of waiting until the end of the year when all I could do was feel sorry for her. I tried my best to work with you and the others, but sometimes a person's best just isn't enough. She took another cookie and turned it over in her hands. I really wanted to prove myself and make a difference in people's lives, but it's hard to do your job when you're met with so much resistance. My students don't like me, and I guess that's just the way it is. What can I say? As a speech teacher, I am a complete failure." She moved her hands towards her face, and I worried that she might start to cry. "Hey, look," I said. "I'm sorry." She said, "I gotcha." She laughed much more than she needed to, and she was still at it when she signed the form recommending me for the following year's speech therapy program. "Sorry indeed. You've got some work ahead of you, mister." I related the story to my mother, who got a huge kick out of it. "You gotta admit that you really are a sucker," she said. I agreed, But because none of my speech classes ever made a difference, I still prefer to use the word chump. Next time we'll read the long one. All right, let's go back to the chat. I lose track of the chat sometimes. There it is. Got all kinds of fun stuff in the chat. Let's see. Oh, everybody was keeping wonderful hair and makeup tips. Love to see some pole dancing and belly dancing on the show. Well, we have, I think you'd be better at it than I would. I'm afraid I just can't make that work. I'd break the pole. And, my belly dances, but you can't see any of the rest of my body. Shen also wants hair and makeup tips. Kim's home until 2 p.m. She's overnight in Orlando. She's joining the Liberty tomorrow. Very nice. Dad had no idea Orlando had a port. It does. You got to drive. You get into a bus, and then you drive an hour and a half to get down to Port Canaveral. But that's the port. Theater, yay. It's a long bonus ride from Orlando to the ship. How true that is. Bus and bonus. That makes sense. It always does. Yes. Shayna asked me, have you heard about the Power Pointless comedy show on Friday at VisArt, produced by Miss Christine McLennan, Paul Platt, Craig Collin, and several other hilarious comics? As a matter of fact, I have. I want to be in that show, but I wasn't invited, so I'm just going to attend. They just posted today the comedians get into that show for free, and I'm going to try very hard to go there, because I'm a very big fan of all those people. So thanks for pointing that out. I know it'll be great, and I hope to join their team. Kim likes the private library graphic. All I can think is put the candle back. That's from Young Frankenstein. Thank you. Dad says, sorry, gang, gotta go. That makes me sad. I wonder where he had to go. Probably bored. And Shayna says, wait, you can't leave. He hasn't recited a sonnet yet. I did. I did one at the very beginning because I knew nobody was listening except for John Champion. So I did one. Shayna said, have I started watching the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm? Yes, I did. I watched the new episode. The first one, I enjoyed it very much. Every season, I'm enjoying, who is that fella? It's Larry David, Jeff Garlin. I am embarrassed to say I can't think of the gentleman's name. He used to be a writer on Saturday Night Live. He's been brilliant on Curb Your Enthusiasm for about 7 seasons now. But I'm enjoying him more and more. The name escaped me. Sorry about that. But I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. I feel like that all the time. All right. How we doing? Doing fine on time? Let's see. Let's spin the wheel. All right, time for a joke. Let's go to the comedy club. All right, got one for you. Let's see. Get this out the way here. A blind guy traveling through Texas. He sits down at the bar and he says, wow, this bar stool's really big. Bartender says, of course it's big. This is Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. So the guy orders a drink. And the blind man gets his beer. He holds the cup. He says, wow, this cup's really huge. And the bartender says, of course the cup is huge. You're in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. He says, wow, all right. So he drinks the beer and he says, listen, I got to go to the bathroom. Will you put me in the right direction? And the bartender says, yeah, you make a right at that hallway and you enter the second door on your left. So the blind guy walks around the corner, but he accidentally opens the first door on the left, which is the pool. So he takes a couple steps. He falls into the pool. He starts swimming around and screaming, don't flush! Don't flush! Fun. J.B. Smoove, thank you very much. That's exactly who I was trying to think of. The brilliant J.B. Smoove. I love his work. That guy is a killer, and I enjoy him very much. Thank you. All right, that was fun. Let's spin the wheel. Oh, time for another Zen koan. All right, let's head to the campfire. Let's see. I believe we had just done
one hand clapping, which was number 21. This is number 22. This is Zen Koan, number 22. Burns like fire. My heart burns like fire. Soyin Shaku, the first Zen teacher to come to America, said, "My heart burns like fire, but my eyes are as cold as dead ashes." He made the following rules, which he practiced every day of his life. In the morning, before dressing, light incense and meditate. Retire at a regular hour. Partake of food at regular intervals. Eat with moderation and never to the point of satisfaction. Receive a guest with the same attitude you have when alone. When alone, maintain the same attitude you have in receiving guests. Watch what you say, and whatever you say, practice it. When an opportunity comes, do not let it pass by. Yet, always think twice before acting. Do not regret the past. Look to the future. Have the fearless attitude of a hero and the loving heart of a child. Upon retiring, sleep as if you had entered your last sleep. Upon awakening, leave your bed behind you instantly, as if you had cast away a pair of old shoes. Good advice all around. Ooh, a song, all right. Let's go into the private library and sing a song. See if I can't find something in the public domain to sing. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. You'll be okay. I've got the world on a string. Too marvelous. Let's do that. Too Marvelous for Words by Johnny Mercer. You're just too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. It's all too wonderful. I'll never find the words that say enough, tell enough. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. You're much too much, and just too very, very, to ever be in Webster's dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous. You're marvelous for words. Well, let's spin the wheel. Monologue. All right, then let us head into the field. That big long Carlin piece, why don't we find something a little bit easier on ourselves? Maybe some acting. We'll do a drama monologue and mix it up. A short one. Running out of space on the computer, so everything's running a little bit slower. I hope you'll be patient with me. Here we go. Let us do Jorgensen from Other People's Money. This is a guy who's run the company for a long time, and he doesn't want them to sell it. Well, it's good to see so many familiar faces, so many old friends. Some of you I haven't seen in years. Well, thank you for coming. Now, Bill Coles, our able president, in the annual report has told you of our year, of what we accomplished, and of the need for further improvements, our business goals for next year and the years beyond. I'd like to talk to you about something else. I want to share with you some thoughts concerning the vote that you're going to make in the company that you own. This proud company, which has survived the death of its founder, numerous recessions, one major depression, and 2 world wars, is in imminent danger of self-destructing. On this day, in the town of its birth, there is the instrument of our destruction. I want you to look at him in all of his glory. Larry the Liquidator, the entrepreneur of post-industrial America, playing God with other people's money. The robber barons of old at least left something tangible in their wake, a coal mine, a railroad, banks. This man leaves nothing. He creates nothing. He builds nothing. He runs nothing. And in his wake lies nothing but a blizzard of paper to cover the pain. Oh, if he said, I know how to run your company better than you do, that would be something worth talking about. But he's not saying that. He's saying, I'm going to kill you because at this particular moment in time, you're worth more dead than alive. Well, maybe that's true. But it is also true that one day this industry will turn. One day when the yen is weaker, the dollar is stronger, or when we finally begin to rebuild our roads, our bridges, the infrastructure of our country, demand will skyrocket, and when those things happen, we will still be here. Stronger because of our ordeal. Stronger because we have survived, and the price of our stock will make his offer pale by comparison. God save us if we vote to take his paltry few dollars and run. God save this country if that is truly the wave of the future. We will become a nation that makes nothing but hamburgers, creates nothing but lawyers, and sells nothing but tax shelters. And we are at this point in this country where we kill something because at the moment it's worth more dead than alive. Well, take a look around. Look at your neighbor. Look at your neighbor. You won't kill him, will you? No, it's called murder, and it's illegal. Well, this, too, is murder on a mass scale. Only on Wall Street, they call it maximizing shareholder value, and they call it legal. And they substitute dollar bills where a conscience should be. Damn it, a business is worth more than the price of its stock. It's the place where we earn our living, where we meet our friends, dream our dreams. It is, in every sense, the very fabric that binds our society together. So let us now, at this meeting, say to every Garfield in the land, here we build things. We don't destroy them. Here we care about more than the price of our stock. Here we care about people. Fun. I like that one. All right, let's spin the wheel. All right, little wisdom. You can always stand being a bit smart, don't you think? Oh, this is good. All right, this is from Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite writers. It's also, this is just straight up reading my favorite meme. Here we go. Go into the arts. I'm not kidding, the arts. The arts are not a way to make a living. They're a very human way of making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow, for heaven's sakes. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. You will have created something. I like that one. All right, back to the chat. Wait, one more spin of the wheel. All right, poem. Let's go to the poetry corner. I think that last poem we did was far too long, so let us pick a more reasonable poem to be read this time. Takes but a moment to load. There we go. Let's do Daylight and Moonlight. No, Henry Wadsworth. I did that one. Yeah, Daylight and Moonlight by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Almost forgot this part.
Daylight and Moonlight by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. In broad daylight and at noon, yesterday, I saw the moon sailing high but faint and white as a schoolboy's paper kite. In broad daylight yesterday I read a poet's mystic lay, and it seemed to me, at most, as a phantom or a ghost. But at length the feverish day like a passion died away, and the night, serene and still, fell on village, vale, and hill. Then the moon in all her pride, like a spirit glorified, filled and overflowed the night with revelations of her light. And the poet's song again passed like music through my brain. Night, golly, night interpreted to me all its grace and mystery. Won't be using that one. Let's read a different one. This is When You Are Old by William Butler Yeats. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. Lovely. Now let's go to the chat. Got lots of catching up to do. It's been a few minutes, so let me double check and make sure that the comments are still coming through. Yes, they are. Just nothing new. All right, then. Let's read the chat. Oh, nothing new except Shayna said it's one of my favorite shows. My parents and I used to love watching that show together. My dad could always relate to Larry's character. Yeah, I know how that feels. How are we doing on time? Feels like 12:30. There's no way to know. Ah, well, let's spin the wheel. I want to sing. I want to read some more. All right, into the private library, everybody. I'm going to read
Never mind, I'm going to sing this one. Young at Heart.
Fairy tales can come true, it can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard you will find to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart. You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams, and life gets more exciting with... Whoops. Hey, BJ, thanks for coming. Oh, it's over. Here we go. Let's try again. Having an off day. Can't all be wonders. Here we go. Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard you will find to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart. You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams. And life gets more exciting with each passing day. And love is either in your heart or on its way. Don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth to be young at heart? For as rich as you are, it's much better by far to be young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part, you have a head start if you are among the very young at heart. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you had some fun today. It's going faster and faster now that I've got so much more to read. Glad to see you, BJ. I'm excited for you coming home, coming back. I saw you were leaving Australia and coming back to the real world. I look forward to seeing you when you get there. I hope everybody feels good, and I hope to see you next week. Until next time, remember, the only way to save this country is for all of us to love one another. So be kind to yourself, and then be kind to everybody else. Try to love everybody. That's what I'm trying to do. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep shining through just like you always do, and the blue skies will push the hard clouds far away. Whew. And would you please say hello to the folks that I know and tell 'em I won't be long. You'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, I don't know when. I'm just going to go answer the phone. Jesus Christ. Bye.
bro.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get better, and so it doesn't work out all the time.
Yeah, it's what it is. I think, I mean, he's like, both of them are, both those two guys are just grinding so hard. Like, every mic, it feels like. And they're constantly working on new material. So
Yeah.
I respect that.
I mean, just from like I do too. But just from a perspective of like somebody I want to talk to.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I'm just in the mood.
You're good.
Very, 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 very small. I think I can put the phone on like airplane mode or something, but I can't because I have to connect to the internet too.
Oh,
It's a
are you
whole
able to
thing.
put it on silent?
Well, it's on silent, but it rings on my computer. Which I didn't realize.
So what do you stream about? Just counting, talking?
No, I read stuff. It's all teleprompter practice. I read essays and poems and
Oh,
Shakespeare
Well,
shit.
yeah, I've seen those.
yeah.
But
I watched the full mop joke. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh,
What joke was it?
yeah, at the moth joke.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
You smile at the end. The Johnny smile.
I didn't think anybody would make it. That's awesome.
Seeing you flying off the fly was pretty cool. I got sick of the film for something. I like the you say credits and everything.
Thank you.
Whenever you go